So I wanted to make some short introductions. We've got a lot of people that are involved in this project that work very actively in various phases and efforts on the project. Myself, I'm on the slide there on the left, bottom left, and our project manager, Meghna Khanna, who I'll be introducing a little bit earlier to take over the bulk of the presentation. Our Metro Planning team is identified there. I don't know if I'll go through all of the names, but we will also be hearing from our Metro Real Estate Department later in this presentation. And then we also have a presentation, a couple slides from our Metro Security Department. Supporting us and getting us through this effort is our WSP team, as well as Terry Hayes and Associates, City Work Design, and Ariano Associates. So thank you to everybody on the team involved here. And next slide. So just to go over the agenda tonight so we can understand the expectations of the meeting, we're going to be giving you a project update. This is based on our January 2022 Metro Board approval, the local bird alternative overview, and this is a refinement, and we're going to talk about those refinements to the project definition. We'll go over the project schedule. We'll have next steps, and then we'll follow it up with a Q&A session. And when we get to that point, we'll talk about it a little bit further, so everybody has the proper instructions to participate and be involved in that. And then we'll go ahead and adjourn. We're going to try to take all of your questions tonight, given the time frame, but we'll see if we have to go over a little bit. We'll go ahead and do that. So with that, next slide. And I will introduce this to Meghna Khanna, who will now take over and walk you through the formal presentation. Meghna.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for joining today as part of our virtual meeting. To start the presentation, I want to remind you, back in January of 2022, Metro Board approved Slauson A line to Pioneer Station, which is shown in the purple line here, as the locally preferred alternative. That's a term we use for the environmental process. So that was the alignment that was chosen to be the focus of the final environmental impact statement, environmental impact report that we are currently preparing. And that's the key purpose of the meeting. We will be walking you through some of the project refinements for this segment. And also, as part of this, Metro Board selected Bellflower Maintenance and Storage Facility site. So that's the site that will be in the final document and will be the maintenance and storage facility for this project. The Paramount MSF that we were looking at in the draft document has been eliminated and is no longer under further consideration. So going to the segment between Slauson A line to LA Union Station, Metro Board selected LA Union Station as the ultimate northern terminus of the project, and they directed the staff to conduct a separate study to evaluate cost-effective alignment solutions. We are working on this separate study right now, and findings of this study will be presented to the board later in 2023. So again, focusing on the LPA segment, which is the Slauson A line to Pioneer Station. It's a 14.5 mile segment, out of which 12.1 mile is at grade. So this is the segment which is operating at street level. When I say at grade, it's street level, but it's running in what we call from Pioneer to 105 approximately. It's on Metro-owned right-of-way. It's a right-of-way currently that runs along these cities, so it will be operating along there. And then there is 2.4 miles of it, which is aerial, and that's when either we are going over the streets, we are going river crossing. That all accounts for 2.5 miles of that aerial alignment. As part of the project, we have 9 stations that are planned. And as you can see, there are 6 stations which are at that street level, shown in the dots here. And then there are 3 stations which are over the street as aerial stations. We also are adding a new station to the current green line, which runs in the middle of the freeway. And as you see in the green circle right there, this is a station which will provide that transfer opportunity where passengers from West Santa Ana branch can get onto the green line and travel to Norwalk or to the airport. So total there are 10 stations, but the way we are defining it, 9 West San Ana Branch station and 1 new Sea Line station. As part of the project, at some of the stations, we have park and ride facilities. Out of that, 4 are surface lots, so they are at street level, and 1 is a parking structure, and that parking structure is located at the terminus, which is the Pioneer Station. As part of the project, as I mentioned, there are some crossings of the river. There are 3 river crossings at LA River, Rio Hondo, and San Gabriel. At LA River and Rio Hondo, we are not demolishing the existing freight bridge. The freight bridge will stay as is. We are building a new light rail bridge next to it to take the light rail across. And at San Gabriel River, we will be constructing a new light rail crossing. As part of the project, there are 4 freeway crossings, 91 and 605. There are already room under these freeway to allow for the light rail to cross. At 105, and I will get into the detail of 105 as I walk you through project refinements, we will be building a new light rail bridge, demolishing an existing freight bridge, and reconstructing that bridge. And at 710, just in layman terms, we are punching holes through underneath 710 to carry the light rail tracks across. And then for the street crossings, there are 15 aerial grade separations. Again, aerial grade separations are where we are going over the street, and then 30 at grade crossings. So this is street crossings where light rail will be crossing these streets at the street level. As part of the project, in addition to that metro-owned right-of-way that I was mentioning, which is pretty much between Pioneer to 105, we are continuing to coordinate with Port of LA, Long Beach, and Union Pacific Railroad. As you see in the segment here, which is highlighted, that is the segment that is owned by Port of LA and Long Beach and Union Pacific up in the north. We will be shifting their tracks. So there's 8.7 miles of freight realignment, not removing, shifting their tracks over and building light rail next to it. And then last but not the least, as I mentioned, Bellflower is the maintenance and storage facility for this project. So just before I get into the project refinements that we have made in response to the comments we received on the draft, I want to walk you through some of the typical segments. And as I walk you through, we will go from north to south. So if you go to the next slide, talking about Randolph Street segment, this is the segment that runs along City of Huntington Park. And currently in the middle of the street, which is the median, there is a freight track. So that is the before. And once we build the project, as I mentioned, we will be shifting the freight track and reconstructing it and adding light rail tracks next to it. So this is the typical condition along this Randolph Street, and this is a view to depict that typical condition. So if we go to the next slide, now we are in the Salt Lake Avenue alignment. This is the segment, as you see in the before photograph or existing photograph, this is the segment where Union Pacific Railroad again has a freight track, and we will be shifting that freight track over and adding the light rail tracks. And in this particular view, you also see what we call the sound walls. These are walls along the light rail tracks, again, located wherever we have residential to mitigate any noise impacts. So going to the next segment, we are now in Paramount, and this is the view of one of the streets in Paramount. If we go to the next slide, this shows the aerial alignment, which I was showing, telling you about. This is an aerial crossing of the light rail. So this is the view that you would see once the light rail is constructed. The freight train, as you see in the rendering there, will stay at grade. It's just the light rail that is crossing over the street. This is the view of the, this is the existing condition of the alignment in Bellflower. As you may all recognize, that's the existing bike trail right there. And then we are going to add the light rail tracks next to it. So this would be the view once the alignment is built. And at this location, there will be a Bellflower station. So this view is very close to the Bellflower station. So coming south towards the terminus, this is the Artesia-Cerrito segment. This is currently that Metro-owned right-of-way. Once we build the light rail, this is how it's going to look like. Again, in this view, you do see sound walls, which are located next to the residential. And we will keep the existing bike path that the city has currently. In city of Artesia, there's a bike path, so that bike path will be located next to the light rail. So now talking about the key reason we are here today, as part of the draft release of the document, we got several comments. To respond to those comments, we held several meetings with key agencies, cities, third parties. And then in addition to that, we had to do several studies to address those comments. Also, just want to point out, we are still evaluating some parking effects, which would be in Huntington Park, Bell, Southgate, Cudahy, Paramount, Bellflower, Cerritos, and Artesia. And these parking effects will be included in the final document. We do not anticipate these parking effects to have additional adverse impacts, but those will be disclosed in the final document. So going back after doing all these studies, all the coordination, we made several project refinements. So I'm going to walk you through those refinements in the following slides. So starting in the north, at the Slauson A line, which is that blue line station, this is the station which allows for transfer between West Santa Ana branch to the blue line. So what we did, we shifted the station south and we added additional pedestrian and vertical circulation to allow for that ease of transfer between these two stations. So if you go to the next slide. The red line, the dashed red line, was the initial platform location in the draft. What we have done is we have shifted the station, which is now shown in that solid purple pinkish color. The blue line station is shown in the gray box just below. And we have added vertical circulation on either side of the platform to allow for that ease of transfer between these two stations. Also, we added a station entrance at the street level to allow people who are coming along Slauson Avenue to get onto the West Santa Ana branch station. In coordination with City of Huntington Park, we got comments related to the street closures and opening. So we have opened previously closed streets at Albany and Rugby. Again, this was done in coordination with City of Huntington Park staff and California Public Utility Commission, which is CPUC. We also closed previously open crossings at Malabar Street and Arbutus Avenue. So these will be the final design that you will see in the final environmental document. In addition to that, in response to the comments from Union Pacific Railroad, we swapped the freight track. Now the freight track is on the north side of the right-of-way, and the light rail track is on the south side of the right-of-way along Randolph Street. Still, the light rail is operating in that median. Also, to address some of the noise comments, this is a before, which you see where the freight track is. We'll be shifting that freight track, and then we'll be adding the light rail tracks. So we are adding sound walls next to the either side of the light rail tracks, as you see in the rendering, to address the noise impacts. This will be part of the final document. In coordination with City of Huntington Park, we also made other refinements, including left turn restriction at the streets that are mentioned here. moving some of the traction power substations, and also identifying some new laydown areas. So I won't spend too much time on this, but if there are questions, we can come back to it. Next slide. For the project design refinement, now getting into City of Southgate, we actually had to work with Union Pacific to accommodate for some redesign of the freight spurs that currently serve existing businesses. So that was done in the area around Rio Avenue. We also identified new laydown area between Rio and Southern Avenue. To address UP's comment about providing connection to one of their existing business at Imperial Avenue, we had to extend the light rail bridge. So basically that light rail, which travels over the street or over that alignment, was extended to provide that spur connection. At 105, based on coordination with Union Pacific, we have consolidated the parking on the west side. Earlier, we had parking on either side of the platforms, but now it's all consolidated on the east side. And in coordination with City of Southgate staff, we added a new driveway from this parking lot. So going to the next slide. This is the key item that we did refine as part of our coordination with Caltrans at 105. This is the area where we are going over the freeway. So we have redesigned the 105 freight bridge. So as you see in this rendering, the West Santa Ana branch alignment will go over the 105 freeway as a new bridge. There is a pedestrian walkway attached to that light rail bridge to allow for people to transfer between the West Santa Ana branch station that's located north of Century Boulevard and the new Green Line station that we are adding in the middle of the freeway. In order to do that, we have to demolish the existing freight bridge that's there, but we are shifting that freight bridge and rebuilding a new one next to the light rail bridge. Previously in the draft document, we were also demolishing and reconstructing the Facade Avenue and Arthur Avenue pedestrian bridge, but no longer are we demolishing those bridges. In coordination with Caltrans and our Express Lane project, we were able to leave those bridges as is. The only change at Facade Avenue would be we will be adding vertical circulation elements from the Green Line to connect to Facade Avenue. But right now, based on feedback from the city, this would be only for emergency egress purposes. City of Paramount, in coordination, not just with City of Paramount, this was a comment that we received from several cities, and as part of the concern was privacy, especially along the aerial alignment adjacent to residences. People were concerned about visibility into their homes. So to address that comment, we are going to be adding privacy screens along the alignment wherever it's aerial next to residential. And these are some of the examples, as you see on the photos in the top, these are translucent privacy panels over retaining wall along our expo line. And then on the bottom, you see these solid privacy panels over those sound walls these are examples from Gold Line. So we will be adding these privacy panels for the entire length of the project, wherever the alignment is aerial next to residential. So now getting into City of Bellflower, in coordination with the city at the maintenance and storage facility, we have shifted the entrance to align with the existing street. And if we go to the next slide, this is how it will align with Bayou Avenue, and we will be adding a crosswalk as signal. This will help the traffic safety concerns and also allow for easy crossing across the street. And now getting into City of Cerritos and Artesia, For the park and ride entrance, we shifted the entrance to align with the access called Solano Place for one of the commercial. In addition, city wanted us to accommodate an alley. We are adding that alley egress, which meant that we had to add additional floor to the parking. So it's a 5-story parking structure. This is the existing view. And that's the massing to show that 5-story structure next to the station. And the parking structure can be further developed in coordination with the city. And then pointing out another key refinement that we have made, city made some comments about changing the retain fill. Basically, it's solid wall which supports the aerial structure to columns. And if we go and click, so this is a view, as you may all recognize, that's the existing bike trail in Artesia. This is how the light rail would look like. And as you see, we have changed it to support that aerial structure with columns. And then for City of Artesia, in coordination with the city and California Public Utility Commission, we added a design option. In the draft, we were closing 186th Street. Oh, we were keeping a 186th Street open and closing 187. But we have added a design option. And as part of the meeting today, we would like to get your feedback or preference. So right now, the design option, as you see, it closes 186 and 187th Street will be open to traffic. So please let us know if you have preference of 186 versus 187. So I'll take a quick pause. Yvette, are we doing the survey now? Okay.
Yes, I've launched the survey. We have 12 people who've participated so far.
Should we keep going or?
Yeah, we can just give it a 1 more minute.
Sure. And thank you for providing your input.
Okay, we have about 55% participation. I think just another couple seconds or so, and we'll go ahead and call it. And we've hit 58% and we're not really moving from here. So let's go ahead and end the poll and move forward.
And if needed, we can share the results at the end, right?
Okay, I can actually share them now.
Yeah.
So they should show up on everyone's screen. We have 17% preference for keeping 186th Street open. 27% voted to keep 187th Street open, and 56% have no preference.
Okay. Thank you all. So with this, let me turn it over to Bill Peterson. He is our DO with our system and security law enforcement. He's going to walk you through some of the comprehensive multi-layered approach we are using for system security and law enforcement.
Thank you, Meghna. Good evening, everyone. I'm William Peterson. I'm with LA Metro System Security and Law Enforcement, as Meghna mentioned. Here at LA Metro, we do utilize a comprehensive multi-layered approach to address public safety on our system. You can see a depiction of it here. It is multi-layered in as much as there's no one response or solution to physical security. We use multiple different layers here that are depicted in the slide. First and foremost, crisis response teams. We do have crisis response teams that are designated to respond to mental health and crisis incidents. And then I want to talk about law enforcement. Presently, we utilize Los Angeles Police Department, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and Long Beach Police Department. And the difference here is they are there for visibility. And in terms of physical security, visibility means deterrence, and they respond to crimes. So in this effort, they respond to violations of California Penal Code, whether it be trespassing, narcotics use, and so on and so forth. The next layer is our Metro Transit Security Program. We actually have Metro Transit Security Officers, and they oversee what we call the Security Operations Center, otherwise known as the SOC. It is a 24/7 operation wherein security incidents and violations of certain things will go into that 24/7 SOC, and it will be analyzed by our Metro Transit security officers and then handled appropriately. In addition to our Metro Transit security officers' duties, they patrol facilities, they enforce code of conduct and fair enforcement, and lastly, they also close our stations between the hours of 1 and 3 a.m. to allow our cleaning custodian staff to go in and appropriately clean the stations. The next layer is contracted security. We do contract through various contract security agencies, and they are an additional layer to our physical security. They'll patrol our facilities like parking garages and structures and so on and so forth. In the event we have special events or emergencies, we'll utilize contract security to augment and supplement our other two layers, the Metro Transit security officers as well as law enforcement. The next layer is homeless outreach. We do have a homeless outreach program wherein we provide services to those riders in need. Transit ambassadors, you've probably seen this program. It's very successful. They're walking around our systems in green shirts and green vests, I should say, and their role is to enhance the customer service experience. But they also serve another purpose. They are there for security awareness as well as visibility. And one of the things that we advocate for our ambassadors is if you see something, say something, and that information gets reported to our SOC or relevant security entities here at LA Metro. The last element is crisis response teams. We do have crisis response teams as well, and they're designated to respond to mental health incident crises. And in the center, you have our Metro riders and our employees. So this security ecosystem is designed to ensure that our Metro ridership as well as our employees are safe. And before I go into that, I want to talk about some of the other things that we're doing here at our older stations. If any of you have had the opportunity to go to MacArthur Westlake, which is one of our older and more problematic stations, we have implemented what we call SEPTED concepts, and that is crime prevention through environmental design. So some of the things that we've done there, just to name a few, improved lighting on the platform. And in terms of SEPTED concepts, lighting is the most important aspect of physical security, because when an area is well lit, there's a less likelihood that there will be inappropriate behavior in that area. Studies have shown that. We've also have designated a single egress point and an exit point at MacArthur Westlake, and that enables us to better observe any inappropriate behavior. But not only that, add another layer to that, and that is the human presence, contract security, and law enforcement, so that they're in a position to handle any issues or violations that may come up. But some of the other things on the street level, you'll see Skywatch, which is basically a giant security tower on the street level. It has a big blue light up there in an effort to deter any inappropriate behavior there as well. So that is our pilot. And the reason I mention it is because we're looking at that pilot and we're making adjustments. What is working at MacArthur Westlake, given it is one of our older stations, and what is not working. And we're constantly improving the areas that we're deficient in or things that can be improved, with the eye of expanding those lessons learned throughout our entire system. Next slide, please. These are some of the other things that we're expanding with regard to improving public safety. We are upgrading our closed circuit TV systems to new state-of-the-art systems. That's currently in progress, as well as the software that's utilized to analyze that video intake, which goes to, again, our central location, our command center, so it can be analyzed and resources can be appropriately deployed to those areas that might be problematic. Emergency blue light call boxes, those are something that we're expanding upon. Not everyone has a cell phone, and sometimes there may not even be a cell signal. So that being said, we want to give people an alternative to communicate with us in the event that there's an issue that arises. The Metro Transit Watch app, this has been a very big success for us. It's very easy to download for the general public, and it is basically the main mechanism of reporting crimes and inappropriate behavior to our SOC. We have 2 SOC stations which analyze all of this information that comes in. And when a user utilizes the Transit Watch app, they're in a position to actually designate certain things that they see, whether it's uncleanliness, whether it's inappropriate behavior. And all of that information goes into our SOC, we review it, and then we respond appropriately and accordingly. Next bullet here, we are actually increasing. I mentioned our MTS officers. We are increasing our numbers to 42. So that will be an additional complement to this physical security structure that I'd mentioned before. And lastly, we're increasing the number of homeless engagement and crisis intervention teams. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Craig Justinson.
Good evening, all. Good evening, all. My name is Craig Justison. I'm DEO of Metro Real Estate. On the screen shows a high-level schedule of the general acquisition and relocation process. So the acquisition and relocation process is led by Metro's real estate team. That team engages once there's an environmentally approved project. So once it's environmentally approved, Metro Real Estate will work with the designers and engineers to certify what those property requirements may be. Maybe a temporary need, it may be a permanent, or it could be both. Those right-of-way requirements are then appraised by an independent third-party appraisal. We take that number and we prepare what's called the purchase offer. Metro staff will sit down with each owner, present the purchase offer, and enter into really active negotiations. It's Metro's intent to engage in active negotiations and reach a voluntary settlement. Once the settlement is reached, we'll go ahead and open escrow. Metro staff will be there to assist in guiding through the escrow process. About that same time, relocation is initiated. And you'll see on the top of the screen is the general process. The bottom is relocation specific. So when relocation is initiated, the first step is to conduct an interview. We want to know what are the specific relocation needs of anybody that is being displaced. Once that information is gathered, then a notice of eligibility is prepared that details the specific relocation benefits. At that point, we're really in active relocation. So we're working with the displacee on identifying and securing replacement properties. We're working with the displacee on coordinating the move. Do you need certain contractors to come in and move a sophisticated piece of manufacturing equipment? Do you need a specific mover to come in to move personal property? Metro staff will help coordinate that process. The next step under relocation, step 5, is claim for payments. This is how reimbursements or payments to contractors are made. Relocation staff will work to develop the claims and work with the displacees to get payments processed. The last step in relocation is vacating the displacement. At that point, Metro has possession of the property, which is step 5 in the top process. Step 6, loss of goodwill. Loss of goodwill applies to businesses that are impacted, and it's basically the financial damage from moving from the displacement to a replacement. It's very complicated, but Metro staff is there to help in analyzing what that may be and to reach a negotiated settlement on any loss of goodwill. This process does not happen overnight. So you'll see on the slide, 18 to 24 months is the general process for acquisition, 6 to 18 months with relocation. There's some overlap in this process, but generally it's a 18 to 24 month from the date we begin appraising to the date possession is taken of the property. We'll be around and we're happy to answer any questions. At this point, I'm going to turn it back to Meghna. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So this slide, of course, you all have questions. When is the project going to open? When that groundbreaking is happening? So as I mentioned, we are in the final environmental stage, which is a very critical milestone. Getting that record of decision or ROD, what you see on the screen, is really critical for us to start any acquisition, any work in the field. So just to walk you through, we will be taking the final environmental impact report to the Metro board for certification sometime in Q2 of 2024. FTA, thereafter, we will go to our federal partners who are responsible for that National Environmental Quality Act, NEPA. They will issue a record of decision, hopefully thereafter in Q3 of 2024. That's the anticipated timeline. And then the real estate and acquisition process can begin. Again, I do want to emphasize real estate acquisition process or any groundwork cannot happen till we get that record of decision. So as Craig mentioned, it's a process which runs for 18 to 24 months. While we are working on the environmental, our counterparts in construction and program management, they are looking at ways of advancing the design. So we recently released 2 RFPs related to advancing the design, because right now for the final environmental, we have what we call 15% level of design. So that's something that's out on the street. And also we are looking at program management, construction management services. So that RFP is on the street. With all that said, our goal is to get the groundbreaking in 2025, and it's a 14.5 mile segment alignment, as I mentioned. So it will take us 10 years, almost 2035 for this line to open. But our goal is to keep working to look at ways as we bring contractors on board to see how we can minimize construction impacts to community, and can we do construction in a sequential manner. So that would be our goal. And then for the Slauson A line to Union Station, that separate study that I mentioned, we plan to do community meetings. We have a stakeholder working group meeting in sometime in June. And then we have a community meeting in July. If needed, we can provide you more details on that. And then the goal is to present the findings of this study to Metro Board in late summer of 2023. Next slide. In addition to the environmental work, we are also working on some parallel efforts. First last mile planning is really critical to ensure that people have safe pedestrian and bike access to the station areas that we are designing as part of the project. So this first last mile plan is being developed in parallel. We are working with cities right now. Soon we'll start the community engagement. There'll be walk audits. And the goal is to have the draft plan ready for adoption. At the same time, we have the EIR certification in front of the board. So that's another parallel effort. A key parallel effort that I want to mention is that our Metro Board recently had a motion. They want us to look at renaming the project. Yes, there are questions that are asked West Santa Ana branch, and the project doesn't connect to Orange County. So we will be looking at ways to work with the community so we can rename this project, which is reflective of the local context, community character, and the cultural and demographic communities that this project will serve. So we will be engaging all our partners, but besides that, we will be working with CBOs, youth influencers. We do want to also use this opportunity today to get your feedback on, or your ideas on the renaming. So if you can scan the code, if you have your phone available, or you can go to that URL that's mentioned, and we'll share it in the chat too. And please submit your rename ideas to us. Next slide. Talking about that separate study from Slauson to Union Station, right now we are looking at ways, because the board directed us to look at a cost-effective alignment solution. Back in the draft phase, when we were looking at this alignment coming into Union downtown, it was all underground coming to Union Station, which you see on the top line. So we are working to look at ways where we can make a portion of it at grade when it goes under the 10 freeway, and a portion of it aerial when it is in south of Little Tokyo, south of 5th Street. So as I mentioned, we'll have separate community meeting for this project. So if you're interested, please feel free to attend. And then I'll just give you a quick overview of how these parallel projects timeline work with our final environmental. So as I mentioned, the Slauson A-line to Pioneer, which is the LPA, our goal is to get the board certification in that Q2 of 2024, and then the record of decision. So for these parallel efforts, we have the renaming. That is something that our Metro board is really looking forward to, and we are excited. We want to have a new name in front of the board sometime in January or next year. For the for the Slauson to Union Station study, as I mentioned, we will be taking that finding to the board in late 2023. And for the first last mile, the goal is to work with community, work with the city's key stakeholders, and have that final plan adopted by the Metro board at the same time as we get the Metro board to certify the final EIR. So with that, let me turn it over to Mark so he can walk you through next slides.
Thank you very much, Meghna. So where we go from here, the stakeholder and community meeting updates, you are participating now, and as I mentioned before, the 3rd to 4th. We have one more in-person meeting coming up, and that's going to be on June 15th at the Albert O. Little Community Center in Artesia from 6 to 8 p.m. We have had meetings, as I mentioned, in both Paramount and Bell. And if you want to take a second to scan that code with your phone, you will be taken to the project website and you'll get more of the details on these meetings. Again, all of the meetings are the same content. We're just offering them at different locations so that everybody can participate, but the content is consistent. The questions might change from location, but the content is the same. Next slide. We are also out in the public and out in the community. We have various local pop-up events and community events. So what we do is we'll take a booth out to these particular locations, and we will have information on the West Santa Ana Branch project and our efforts to promote it and to inform the public. And so you can see a variety of different meetings going on. This calendar goes all the way back to May, as we started this process out earlier this month. And as you can see, the next meeting is coming up in Paramount on July 20th. And we are also going to be at Southgate on July 1st to 4th, and concerts in the park on July 13th. And we also have coming up Bellflower Farmers Market on June 19th. So please feel free to participate in those meetings and stop by and say hello, and we'll have some free giveaway items and as well as information. So scan the code there at the bottom if you want to keep this information on your phone. So in front of you is the slide. If we missed your question, or if you think of a question sometime later in the week, you can't make the public meeting tomorrow night in Artesia, you can send your comment or a question to the old-fashioned way through the mail system to Meghna Khanna. You can call our hotline and someone will get back to you at 213-922-6262. Our email address is wsab@metro.net. You've got our web address there at metro.net/WSAB. And we also have social media accounts where we post agency-wide items and upcoming meetings and inform the public about what's going on. So thank you very much. We've got a comment about renaming, and we will definitely take that into account as we move forward. And we will have more outreach around renaming as we move forward with the project. So I want to, on behalf of Metro, thank everybody for coming tonight. We appreciate your input. Meghna, anything else?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much for coming, and I will now conclude this meeting.